My name is Arun Jagtiani, and I'm a proud St. Martin. In a few short weeks, our country is going to be heading to the polls to elect 15 new members to Parliament. There's 126 candidates from 9 different political parties that are contesting this election, and I think the entire voting population can benefit from knowing a little bit more about who these candidates are. Over the next few days, I'm going to interview a few new faces and a few political veterans. So join me, St. Martin, and let's talk politics. When you sit back and you reflect on the 4 years that you did serve in Parliament, and then you had about a 2-year break almost, to really give it a lot of thought, and as you mentioned, you needed to do that sort of soul searching. What do you think you learned from the 4 years you served in Parliament? What have you learned? And how does that better equip you to serve in Parliament now?
Well, one of the things that I realized is that when I first came in, I went too fast. You know, I want to accomplish everything right away.
Right.
You know, I didn't pace myself, you know. I didn't sit down and understand the art of compromise. You know, when you're on a campaign trail, Arun, and you go to some of these homes in St. Martin, and you listen to single mothers, you listen to hard-working fathers, you listen to young men who've been incarcerated and can't find employment, you listen to students that you've gone to school with that went away to study, whether it's in Holland or the US, and come back with engineer degrees, but not working in the field of their study. And you hear the issues. And one of the things that I said in the campaign is that you don't have 4 years, we don't have 4 more years to solve this problem.
Right.
We need to address these issues in a programmatic approach. And so one of the things that I did is that I went too fast. You know, I presented too many things at the same time, and I didn't give the people the opportunity for me to explain them and break it down as to what the benefits are.
Sure.
You know, so that is one of the things that I've learned now, that I've realized. More importantly, Arun,
what do you feel like you accomplished, I'm sorry, in the 4 years that you were serving
well, you know,
Parliament?
my first legislation that I brought, and one of the things that we have to understand, and I grabbed hold of it very quick, you know, you're not in Parliament to be an activist. You know, that's not your job. You're not there to be a Facebook politician. You know, you're there to do one thing, which is legislate. And so, you know, I brought 3 legislations while my 4 years in Parliament. My first legislation was a pawn shop legislation. It was actually the Alabama Pawn Shop Act that basically regulates the pawn shops that we have in this country. It was a point of time in 2010, 2011 that we had so many break-ins in homes in this country.
Right, I remember that.
And pawn shops keep popping up left, right, and center, and there were no control. And so I did my research, I visited the police station, I looked at the laws, if there are any laws on the books, and there were none. And so I brought this legislation. The second one I brought to Parliament, at that time in 2012, when the situation, the saga that was going on with Pelican.
Yes.
And companies coming in, buying over, and all of these things, and then the workers don't have, they lose all their benefits.
Right.
And so I met with the lawyers of the Pelican workers. I discussed with them, what can we do as Parliament, as legislators, to make sure that this doesn't happen again? And there were articles that were taken out of the Civil Code, Articles 662, 666, of the rights of employees to transfer from one company to the next. And so I enacted a motion in Parliament. I brought those articles to put back into the Civil Code to be able to have now protection for our hardworking people in St. Martin. Third and lastly, which I think is very important for especially my generation to come, I brought a mandatory pension plan. Aruba has, in 2012, January 1st, implemented a mandatory pension plan, which means that whichever company you're working for, you must be part of a pension. One of the things that we have in St. Martin is that you hear the cries of our parents, of our elderly, that when they reach that age, they're only collecting the AOV. And when you've worked for many years, for 40 years, and collecting, let's say, 3,000 or 4,000 guilders, and then all of a sudden, when you reach that age of seniority, you know, you're going home with 500, 600 guilders. It's a very difficult point in their life. And so I wanted to make sure that my generation doesn't have to go through that, what my parents and my grandparents have gone through. So I brought that law in Parliament to make sure that when we reach at that age, we can enjoy what the visitors enjoy when they come off the cruise ship and on the airline, a healthy 401k that no matter what company you're in, that is put in there for you. And I brought it because of the importance that as government officials, we benefit from a pension plan, which is APNA. And so if it's good for us, it should be good for the
rest of the population.
Of course,
yeah.
You know?